You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Dave Bullis Podcast. Although you already know that since you've already clicked on the actual link, and obviously you know who I am if you're actually clicking on that link. But joining me today is Phil Carroll. Phil is a senior film student at Temple University. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thanks for asking. So Phil, the reason I asked you on the podcast is, you're a senior at Temple University here in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Also to note, you're a lot different than any other guest we had on here because I've actually worked with you, and everybody else is either I've sort of brainstormed with in a way, or I've never worked with at all. So you're the first person I've ever worked with on the podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we have a history together.
Exactly. The funny thing is, though, Phil and I have never actually met. It's I was a producer on a short film, and Phil was the first AD, and we never crossed paths at all during that entire pre-production, production, or post-production phase, which is, I guess, is that really that surprising, do you think, Phil?
No, I don't think so. Your role was more the man behind the curtain on the project. And, my role was to then help Chris Witt execute, his vision that you helped set up.
Yeah, it's so good. So I'm not going crazy. But the movie was called Charlie, and we actually, as I was explaining to Phil, it's kind of a complicated story, but we ended up taking the Facebook page down and just sort of putting it on the back burner, but still using it, I still want to use it as a portfolio piece to anybody who wants it. Actually, it turned out pretty damn well, Phil, because, it had the great location we got, the reenactors we got, the zombie effects were good. Everyone was asking about it. It's just a shame, a lot of post-production BS, let's call it. But anyways, let's talk about you, Phil. So Phil, I want to ask you to start off is, why did you choose Temple University over, say, the other schools in the area?
Do you want the real answer to that question?
Yeah, give us the real answer.
All right. Well, the real answer, and this isn't a slight against Temple at all because I love the school. No, my first choice was University of Southern California. I had applied there. That was my dream school. In high school, I kind of put, all my effort into making short films with my friends, and we had a blast. But because of that, I decided not to focus as much attention on my grades in high school. And, that reflected on my application to USC. So I didn't get accepted, and I kind of put all my eggs in that basket, and Temple was the one other college that I applied to as a backup. And I went there. And, it turned out to be the greatest I guess, what would you call it, greatest mistake on my part I ever made. I love the school. They've been phenomenal to me. And, I learned that I wasn't ready to go out to California at that point. And Temple has, I think at this point, given me most of the tools that I'm going to need in the film industry once I graduate.
And you're graduating in May 2015, right?
Correct, yes.
So when you graduate, do you think you're going to go out to California?
Well, in January, actually, I'll be doing my final semester in LA through Temple's Los Angeles internship program. They have a study away out there, so I'll be interning, hopefully, for some of the production studios out there and kind of getting the LA experience. And then from there, I've got to decide whether or not I want to stay or come back to PA for a little bit.
So do you know which production company you'll be interning with?
At this point, I don't. What my plan is I'm working on some screenplays right now, and I'm going to be researching, production houses that kind of work in the genre area that I hope to get into. That way I can hopefully build some contacts there so that when my scripts are done, I'll have people to talk to. So once I kind of have a better idea of what I'll be writing, I'm going to start researching then the companies that I'd like to work for that also work in that subject area.
That's cool. So Phil, just out of curiosity, what screenwriting software do you use?
Well, I started out on Celtics. It's the free screenwriting software that's available online. And just this past year, I migrated over to Final Draft.
Cool. I just wanted to ask that because I just wanted to know what Temple was using and everything else. I usually recommend Celtics too because it's free, but I don't know if you've seen those. Celtics is actually kind of pushing towards getting paid now. So what they're doing is like they want you to use their own cloud server.
Okay.
And so now it's kind of like there really isn't a free alternative yet, or excuse me, anymore. It's basically either that, Final Draft, or Fade In.
Okay.
But so anyways, so Phil, How I Won the War, that was your first short film, correct?
Well, not my first short film. It was my first entry into a 24-hour film competition, though.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Phil. Did I skip too far ahead, or should we?
No, that's up to you. If you had any other questions in regards to film school.
Well, I'm actually going to circle back to film school.
Okay.
That's why I jumped into the film thing. But yeah, so I know you did it for the 24-hour film marathon, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So take us through that process of just trying to make a film in 24 hours.
It was literally the greatest filmmaking experience of my life. It was so much fun. What we did was, we knew that the competition, how it works is at the beginning of the 24 hours, which started, it was Friday night at 10 p.m., they gave out 3 secret elements. You had a prop that you had to use. I believe it was a line of dialogue, and what was the third one? A broomstick, I believe, was the prop. The line of dialogue was "bite down on this." I forget what the third element was, but basically you have to take those 3 elements and somehow fit that into a 3.5-minute short film. So we knew ahead of time that they were going to give us 3 secret elements, and we wanted to do our best to prepare ahead of time with, what little information we did have, which was basically a 3.5-minute short film. That's the only parameters that we knew about. So what I did was I contacted, pretty much all the actors that I knew and all my friends who have crewed films before, and we formed a team, and we found a location and props that we wanted to use, which was my friend Kurt Eberling Jr., his backyard actually, and he's a World War II reenactor and a history buff, so we knew we wanted to incorporate all his World War II props in there somehow. So we kind of made that a 4th element then, that medic station that you see in the actual film. And then when the time came Saturday night and they gave us the 3 secret elements, we then just wrote that into the World War II location. And yeah, it was a blur, the whole experience. It was so quick, and that's actually what I liked most about it, was that there was really no time to overthink things, no time to let fear enter the equation. It was just working with your friends, and the only thing that was left was fun, and it was an awesome experience. Yeah, so you have any other questions in regards to How I Won the War, like specific things you wanted to know?
Actually, I'm sorry, I just completely forgot what I was going to ask you, but you did win. Did win an award for the Diamond Film Festival, correct?
Yes, I did. Back in 2011, I won Best Undergraduate Film for another World War II short I did, Words of Atonement. And in 2012, we won Best Narrative Film for a film we made called Signed Harry.
That's very cool. Congratulations, Phil.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thank you. We had a phenomenal team that helped make that possible. So very fortunate to have great people in my life to work with.
Yeah, so How I Won the War, did you do that with all Temple film students, by the way?
No, it was actually a wide range of people. We had Temple Film alum who worked on the project, people that never even went to school in the first place, just people that were World War II reenactors. Mm-hmm. The lead actress was an au pair from England. So we had quite the wide variety of people on this.
That's very cool. And see, that's also, one of the things, why I like to have, why I had you on, Phil, is because it's a good idea to see both people who went to film school and people who didn't go to film school. Mm-hmm. It's just always interesting to see everyone's path that they take. But, so you did that movie. Then you went on to make, or you're making right now, The Road to Jericho, correct?
Finishing it up. Yeah, actually, the Road to Jericho, it's in a very interesting place right now. We actually shot the film last summer. That's when we had principal photography. That's my senior thesis. And over the course of this whole past year, we've been in post-production, cutting it together. Most seniors, what they do at Temple is you get to choose 3 different tracks. There's the general production track where you just kind of take a general overview of film courses, but you don't have to do any kind of senior project. There's the screenwriting track where you write a feature-length screenplay, and then there's the senior project track where you have to put together a 15-minute short film. Typically, if you want to do directing, you'll take the short film senior projects path, but I didn't like how there was this 15-minute time limit on the project, and I kind of wanted to have the freedom to, make the film any way that I wanted. So last summer, I took a class called Special Projects, which basically just says make whatever short film you want. So I did that rather than taking this whole year-long course at Temple, and shot Jericho for that. And right now we're nearing the end of post-production. We've got a day of pickup shots left, and we're aiming to have everything wrapped up by October to start sending away to film festivals.
That's very cool. And you actually just won a grant, correct?
Yes, we did actually. The Philadelphia Independent Film and Video Association granted us a $1,500 finishing funds grant, and it's going to go a long way to helping the film get finished. And I can't thank the committee over there and Jackie for just all the help they've had in supporting the project, and me as a filmmaker over the past couple years as well. They've screened a lot of my shorts at their Cinema Speakeasy events and are a phenomenal resource to the Philadelphia film community.
Yeah, Jackie's pretty good too, and also it helps that she's the actual film attorney.
Yeah,
so she can answer a lot of really good questions.
Definitely,
yeah, people over there are very good, and so. Is there anything you could tell us about The Road to Jericho, like what the actual synopsis is?
Sure. The Road to Jericho follows a 29-year-old struggling screenwriter named Carter, who finds out that his movie-producing idol, Buddy Paxton, is coming home to Philadelphia. And Carter's kind of at the end of his rope, so he decides to steal a taxi cab and go to the airport to hopefully pick this guy up and pitch him his passion project. But when he steals the cab, he finds out that there was an old woman in the back who... and he ends up teaming up with to try and reach this producer. So the bulk of the film is kind of their adventure together and how they change each other's lives over the course of their journey to meet this guy.
Oh, sounds pretty good. I saw on your Facebook, I saw the one comment you made that your postman was wondering about the cab in the driveway.
Yes. Yeah, we prior to making the film, I did a lot of research into renting taxi cabs and that whole industry and whatnot. And it proved to be more cost effective to buy my own. So last year I bought an old ex-New York cab, had a guy, John Showers, he renovated it. John was actually one of the guys who worked on the original, the Back to the Future DeLorean in parts 2 and 3, along with some other films, and he volunteered his time to renovate the cab for us. So there's a little history attached to it as well. But yeah, it's sitting in my driveway right now, actually, waiting for the film's premiere. So
that's pretty cool. And so Phil, after The Road to Jericho, is there anything other projects you have going on?
Well, this weekend, actually, we're shooting a short film to enter into the Project Greenlight competition that's running currently. So we're really excited about that. Following that, just getting things ready for when I go out to LA, the internship program. I'm trying to go out there with either a script in my hand or, a portfolio of treatments, so that, I'll have something lined up after graduation, to move on to the next stage of my career.
That's very cool. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
See, that way if you get like a job somewhere, I can try to hey, Phil, remember me? I was that guy on that podcast you went on. Can I come begging for a job?
Likewise, Dave.
It's amazing. Before the podcast started, Phil and I were talking, just about random film stuff, and I got the advice the other day from my friend of mine who works at William Morris Endeavor, and he said, even the smallest project, no matter like the size of it, always requires a Herculean effort. Mm-hmm. And it is so true. And, if anybody, quote unquote, makes it, it is like, you're the 1% of the 1%. Because they say that, anybody who sets out to write a screenplay, 99% never finish it. And of those 1% that actually finish it, only 1% ever sell that screenplay or get it made. Mm-hmm. So the odds are against you. Sorry to bring the mood down, Phil.
No, you remind me of. I'm going to nerd out here for a second. That scene in Empire Strikes Back with C-3PO and then in the asteroid field. That was that moment right there.
So I'm C-3PO now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And I got some Han Solo then. Never tell me the odds.
Yeah. I was going to call you Jar Jar Binks, but
thanks very much for that.
Just on a side note, really quickly, on the Howard Stern show recently, Zach Braff was on there, and they were talking about tweets that people have sent to him. And Zach Braff said there was one tweet he read that actually got him down, and somebody tweeted at him, "You are the Jar Jar Binks of whatever movie you're in."
Oh.
he said it literally just brought him down, and then he kind of laughed later on, but he was like, man, because that was actually a pretty funny joke too.
Yeah.
But and just to come back to film school, I usually talk with this about people who've actually been in film school. I didn't go to film school, mm-hmm. but just some of the things that usually come up in conversation. And one of them is, what do you think, Phil? Do you think that some of the filmmakers today are just too obsessed with gear and not really worried about the story?
Obsessed with what? I'm sorry?
Gear, like the newest camera, whether it's like a Red Dragon or do you think people are student filmmakers are too obsessed with the actual gear or over the story?
I definitely think that there are people out there that are obsessed with the gear as opposed to the story, and I think there is a lack of good storytelling in the film industry today. I don't know. From my experience in college, I think there are a good amount of kids there that thankfully did have really great stories to tell, and from the personal experiences and whatnot. And for me, I can't speak for schools that are strictly film schools, because Temple's a liberal arts college, which actually I was very happy to have that experience now looking back on it. At first, I was really pissed off that I had to deal with all these other courses that weren't film. But I think the fact that it is a liberal arts school gave all the film students the opportunity to kind of explore the world in a different way and really expanded their horizons in regards to the material that they could tell stories about. So I think at least at Temple, there was a pretty wide variety of stories being told because of the diverse range of people that you encounter there, and the subject matter that you encounter in the classes that you take.
Somebody gave me a piece of advice too. They said when you're ever going to make a short film in film school or a script, they said make it a comedy, because for some reason everybody always goes to the dramas. Notice that?
Yeah, no, and I'm probably one of those perpetrators as well. I've found over the course of college, my material's gotten more and more serious, and actually my senior project is more of a dramedy because I felt like I was going too far in that direction, and I wanted to make something that was a little bit more light and fun. So yeah, there is a definite surplus of serious films in film school.
He I forget who it was, but he told me that he ended up winning their in-school film festival because he said everybody else had these black and white dramas and so they were very, very avant-garde, and he basically just made this college buddy flick, and people were more, because it was so different, everyone just kind of voted for that regardless. So there's a little nugget. If there's a student filmmaker listening to this, that's hopefully one thing they can take away. And another story that I heard was a guy friend of mine went to UCLA, and his screenwriting professor said to him this. He said, "Your ideas are a dime a dozen, and although I'm going to pay a dime, you should give me change, and I still overpaid.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah. So I saw on one of your Facebook posts, your screenwriting teacher, he gave you some pretty good advice. What was some of the advice that stands out from that screenwriting professor?
Specific pieces of advice.
Well, let me give you the one I was actually going to ask you about. Was his advice about moving to LA?
I remember. Was that the one? I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember that he said the plan to LA is to just move to LA. I think that's what it was, right?
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't think about it. And I think that's actually one of the best pieces of advice that he ever gave us. Was to stop overthinking things and just do it. If you want something, go after it. What's stopping you? The more you think about it, the more that you're going to start coming up with excuses.
Phil, was he the professor that helped get somebody staffed on 2.5 Men?
I don't know that. I haven't heard that story before, but his name was Mark Rosenthal, and he has a lot of screenwriting credits. He did Mona Lisa Smile, the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, a bunch of other films. So he has a lot of industry experience, which was great because he shared that all with us. He gave us a lot of really good career advice on how to get our work sold and seen. So Phil, did he actually go into the screenwriting when he went in there? Did he talk about like sequences? Did he teach you that method? Sequences,
like the 8 sequences, just to break it up into 8s.
No, he didn't talk to us about that. We talked about kind of 3-act structure. It was less of like a traditional by the book screenwriting course, and more of a writer's room environment where we would kind of come with our ideas and our rough drafts, and we'd present them and talk about them in the group. There was only really, I think, 7 or 8 of us in the class, so it was a very intimate environment where we could really get to work and hear everybody's true opinions. So he ran it more like a writer's room.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Phil, is there, in closing, is there anything that you wanted to add that we didn't touch on?
Let's see. No, I mean, I think we touched upon most of the stuff. From my experience, though, the one thing that I'd say is that if anybody out there wants to be a filmmaker, I think you should just pick up a camera and start making something. I know from most of the other kids that I'm friends with that are people that want to be directors, a lot of times they don't make their own projects because they're waiting for that opportunity to hit or that grant to come in or that good camera to become available. And with the availability of technology today with iPhones and even older just DV cameras, I mean, nothing's really stopping you from going out and making something, regardless of what the quality is. And I include myself in that group. I'm always making excuses as to why I can't make a project at this time, or some stupid anxiety comes into play. And I think the secret is to just stop worrying about it and just go out and start making something. And regardless of what happens, you'll learn something from the experience and be able to apply that to your next project.
Yeah, it definitely is a stalling tactic, and it comes from basically fear. Like what if somebody hates this? Basically, when I started all this in 2008.
Okay.
And I got a $99 camera for Christmas, and literally your phone, whatever phone you have right now, is better than the camera I had. And I shot a feature-length film with that and 2 books to guide me. Lloyd Kaufman's Make Your Own Damn Movie and Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew.
Yeah.
And I shot everything. Talk about no budget. It was just me and some friends. And we actually put this movie together. And we show it sometimes to random people. And sometimes they laugh and other times they're like, what the hell is going on in this movie? Because it was a joke movie, obviously. And it's have you ever seen the movie Future War?
I have not, no.
Okay, it was so bad it was on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and we actually made an unofficial sequel to that. And because we could basically no one's going to sue us for the rights of that freaking movie, so we made an unofficial sequel to that, and it just came out. Some people actually said it was better than the other movie, which I'll take that as a compliment, but it was just us having fun. But again, it was just, I didn't have any software to plan. Like, I didn't use any of the stuff from Entertainment Partners. I had Sony Vegas to edit with, and that's how I did the whole movie, man. It's just going out there and doing it.
That's awesome.
And another good book that I recommend, Phil, is called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
I actually just ordered that on Amazon. It's funny you mentioned that.
It's I actually know Stephen, and I'm actually trying to get him for the podcast. He's actually a really great guy, and that book is actually one of 4 in a series, and it really talks about resistance and how it manifests itself. And anybody who's doing pretty much anything, when you're trying to go to that next level, you start experiencing resistance, and that's what the whole crux of the book is about: is how to battle resistance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's phenomenal! I can't wait to read it, because I know for me, my problem this whole past year has been my own self-resistance because of the anxiety of graduating and not knowing what the future holds and whatnot. And it's really debilitating. And so it comes to a point where you just got to be like, whatever happens, happens. And I'm just going to make a film right now, and we'll see what turns up of it. So,
yeah. And it's always good to have like the big time screenplays, like maybe the big blockbuster or what have you, just as in your back pocket for like a rainy day.
Yeah.
So that way, because that's another common mistake I see is filmmakers try to shoot stuff that they can't possibly do. And like for instance, when I see projects that are being crowdfunded, and they want like $50,000, and then you see what they're going to use the money for, and you think to yourself, they're going to need a hell of a lot more than $50,000 to make this.
Yeah.
And and you just go, how are they going to do this? Like, $50,000 can be eaten up in no time just by color correction.
Yep.
Because I was a part of a film project, and we were going to go to Light Iron in New York, and the project they were working on when I contacted them was The Man of Tai Chi with Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. And I mean, our post production cost just for color correction there, because they used to, it's an amazing studio, by the way, was it was about $60,000.
Wow.
And it's just I mean, now granted, obviously I'm not saying everyone has to go to Light On or anything like that, but it's just amazing sometimes when I see if they can do it, and like we did with Charlie, we had a lot of favors and we were able to make a really kick-ass trailer, then more power to you. But in the scope of things, I think sometimes they overshoot. Instead, they should be, I don't want to say aim low, but maybe more rational.
Yeah, take advantage of the resources that you have at your disposal, and write the best film to those resources. My biggest success up till this point has been Words of Atonement, that World War II short I did back in 2011, and that one, to be honest with you, I think it was less than $300 for that short, and that was because everybody that was involved in it wanted to be a part of it and volunteered all their props and resources to help make the film happen. Now, I can't go and say that would work in a feature film setting, but if you're shooting at one location for a day or two in a feature setting, you might be able to work out something with the people if you have connections and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend writing to what you have in your back pocket, at least for your initial shorts or feature film. And then, like you said, once you kind of prove yourself and prove that you can handle a larger scale project, then whip out that Hollywood style film that you have in your back pocket.
Yeah, and like if you look at the first directorial debut of like a lot of these filmmakers, like Pi by Aronofsky, you look at Fincher and Following, these movies they were very, very low budget films, and they weren't these drastic huge budgets. I mean, that's what you work your way up to.
Yep.
So cool, Phil. Is there anything any final words you have to say?
Just everybody out there listening, just go and make a film if you want to. Don't let anything stop you. You can do it.
Cool, Phil. That's great advice. Where should they check you out at, Phil?
My YouTube channel is youtube.com/PGC Studios, and I've got a Facebook page as well, PGC Studios on there, and feel free to add me on Facebook as well. It's Philip G. Carroll Jr.
Cool, and you're on Twitter as well, right?
Yep, yeah, PGC Studios on Twitter. So Twitter's one of those things that I still haven't really got the hang of yet, so I appreciate you reminding me of that. It's I've got to practice for.
Twitter is has become, I mean, if anybody who listens to the podcast knows, Twitter has become like my favorite social media tool, far and away. I have made more connections off of Twitter than LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, all combined. It is just amazing at connecting with people.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I have to take advantage of that then.
Yeah, I'm actually, I have a blog post, and I keep meaning to publish it because I make rough drafts, but it's a blog post all about how to use Twitter for newbies and how to get into it, how to make connections, and not just, following people or whatever have you, and then being like, hey, they didn't say anything, jerk off, blah, blah, blah. So it's actually about how to make, real connections and, stuff like that, and how to actually really network and, stuff like that. So I gotta get back to blogging again. Because anybody who's been in my blog knows I've been updating the podcast on the blog, but not the actual posts.
Mm-hmm.
But cool. And again, Phil, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Dave, for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you have to come back sometime when you're after your internship, and just say what you've been going, what you've experienced with that, and any more advice.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love that.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for listening. And again, you can check me out, DaveBullis.com. Please subscribe to the podcast. And then, follow me at Dave Bullis on Twitter. And, I'll have a whole bunch of guests coming up. And I am going to get the video conferencing back on. I keep forgetting to bring the webcam home from my office because this laptop I use does not have a webcam built in. Because I used to actually put this up, Phil, it used to be the Skype interview on YouTube, and then it was separately as a podcast too. But unfortunately, I've only done that one time so far.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so if you wonder what I'm talking about, but all right, everyone, thanks again for listening, and Phil, have a great night, buddy.
All right, you too, Dave. Take care.
Take care, buddy.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.